Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Morley.
And today we are joined by, I love this woman, energetics assistant to all of us, to Rachel. She really carries every room that we're in. Julie White, everybody.
Yay!
Hey, everyone.
Julie, we're so excited for you to be here. Me and Danny have been probing you to get on the podcast because we have 1,000,000,001 questions, but we love to start from the beginning. You've been with Rachel for 8 years now, if I'm not mistaken. And
Right.
I recently learned that you started off as a client of hers. So could you kind of walk us through the story of you and Rachel Fiori meeting?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a funny story. So I entered the spirituality scene in San Diego a while ago. My mom introduced me to my first spiritual teacher when I was 16. So I was kind of familiar with a lot of what was going on. And one of our friends owned a wellness center. And she was like, "Hey, you should come to this person. She's speaking at the center. And I really feel like you'd vibe with her." And I'm like, "Sure, yeah, I'm all into that." So I show up and I'm listening to Rachel talk. And, I have all these programs running. I'm like thinking very, very mind addicted. And I'm listening to this woman talk about programs and how we're addicted to our minds. And she finished and I was like, Hi, that's me. I'm very addicted to my mind. Can you please help me?" And that was kind of our first introduction. And then I started going to her classes. She was teaching classes out of her home in Encinitas. And
Wow.
yeah. And so that was my introduction. She was probably just like, "Oh my gosh, this lady."
Wow, that's incredible. And when you started really working with her and really hearing her wisdom and really learning alchemy and all of these things, what was going through you and what did you gain from your time with her?
Right. So I've always had this willingness to heal. Like I've always had a growth mindset. It was just something that I was born with. So when I started doing this really deep work with Rachel and like noticing these shifts in myself where I was like, I had tried all these other things, it just brought me back to myself. It brought me back to a place where I had more clarity in my life. I knew what I was meant to do. So really like gaining so much self-awareness through doing all the work with Rachel.
And go ahead, Danny.
I was just going to say, for anyone listening, Julie is in all. So both Ellie and I have gone through a 6-month certification program with Rachel.
Yes.
And Julie is in absolutely every single class.
Mm-hmm.
And she shows up. And at first, we weren't really sure what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
She was
because we didn't know anything. Yeah.
But since then, she's started to open about what she does, and kind of like train a few people in small group settings on like what exactly she's doing. And I'd love for you to just start to share, because you've got the title of energetics assistant. What exactly do you do when you're in the space with all of the coaches?
Yeah. So it's very multifaceted. There's lots of things happening energetically when people heal. And I'm essentially watching what's happening. I'm letting my guidance guide me to what places need energy. So sometimes that's, oh, I can see this person could go deeper. So let's bring some energy here and help lift that up for them to see. And it gives them more of an opportunity to heal that specific energetic wound that they have. Also bringing in more light for some people. And then sometimes it's just holding like that space, being spaciousness for someone to heal. Because people are magic and they can heal themselves. And so it's really just helping them along on that path. Um, so that's like a very brief rundown of what I'm doing in class energetically. It's all energetics.
During a group healing that the three of us were in, Rachel said that you're this hybrid, which felt very rare to me. This hybrid of really balancing the divine masculine and the feminine. Could you go into a little bit of what it means to be a hybrid of both?
Yeah. So, anyone who's listened to this podcast for any amount of time, that there's kind of different qualities that divine feminine and divine masculine bring to healing. And I just have mastery in both. So divine feminine is very powerful, can go in, lift that up, help alchemize all that energy. And divine masculine is very grounded, stable, um, holding that space and also being the protector energy. And so just having mastery in both of those so that you can kind of swap back and forth. And then in group healings, when you have more people and more energy putting into that healing, I can actually help guide the energy in a way that makes everyone's energy kind of work together.
And where did you first learn this? Did you go through your healing journey with Rachel first, and then she recognized a special quality within you, or was it your own desire to keep healing and keep helping people heal? How did this evolve into being the energetics assistant of Rachel?
Yeah, that's a great question. And kind of the topic of, what I want to talk about is coming home to yourself and your purpose. So I knew that my healing journey was my number one. I don't want to negatively impact anyone else. I want to be from a place of gentleness. So that was my goal growing up and in my early adulthood. So really getting to the root of why I behave the way that I behave. And through that process, the divinity can come up, and it's easier to see in yourself what your specific life purpose is. And it was very apparent to me after I had done a big chunk of healing that my life purpose is to support, and gaining that clarity through removing my programs and really getting to know who I was, the divine who I was. It just intuitively comes through, and it's always growing and changing. So, um, you know, I still have things come up. Sometimes I'll have, healing sessions, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was part of me. And so now I have this, new awareness, new, like, I don't want to say gift or like ability, but that's kind of without having another word for it. You know, you just gain clarity and things can grow naturally. And you have the ability of listening to divinity and knowing where and when you should use your abilities and your own divinity, because it all comes from within.
Yeah, and I think for those people who haven't been in class with Julie, you're always on mute and you're always sitting and you always close your eyes. And I can feel, yeah, and she's petting her cat. Her beautiful cat comes along and she's petting her cat. And you can feel how much work you're actually doing. And so my question to you is, when it first started happening, did you understand this ability? Did you understand this gift? And how did you connect it? How did you and Rachel connect to be like, okay, we're a team in this together?
So again, it just kind of is a process of like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to sit in here. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to listen to what divinity wants me to do. So that was kind of the process of like, and then to put it into words is kind of tricky because it's like, well, what the hell am I doing? I'm just sitting there with my eyes closed. And it's just kind of this organic process that happens when you're able to be spaciousness and allow divinity to work through you. And my cats totally love the energy that comes through. So anytime I'm in that space, they'll come and they'll jump and they'll rub all over me.
It's
And
very
again,
clear.
yeah,
They really do,
they love
because
it.
you'll be sat there chilling, and then all of a sudden you'll start and you can see they're there.
It's only that energy. I'll be sitting here working, like doing administrative stuff or whatever, and they don't care. They're like, no thanks. But as soon as I get into that zone, they're like all over me. Um, and same thing with Rachel, it just happened organically. Like the more I did my own healing, the more I stepped into truly who I was and my purpose. It became clear that Rachel and I, this is definitely not our first lifetime together. We've had thousands of lifetimes together,
Yes.
and I'm consistently in this role supporting her.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
always
That's
see you two as like Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm the
and
Robin to her
Yes.
Batman.
yeah, and
Yes.
Batman needs Robin. Like,
For
they're a
sure.
team.
Yes.
That's how a team
Yeah.
works. You're only as
Yes.
strong as your weakest link, and a team really, supports each other, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to, and I'm sure Ellie would volunteer as well if you have any stories for her. But I'd love to put myself in the hot seat and just say, if you have any memories of when you were working in class with me, or Ellie, if she doesn't mind as well, where you remember specifically helping something I was working through, I would love to know those moments, anything that sticks out, just to give myself and the listeners a little bit of clarity, and maybe I can kind of explain what I was experiencing if I remember at that time.
Yeah. So, Danny, specifically with you, you were talking about the heaviness of depression. And I can't remember the specifics of what your trigger was. I think it was just something like you woke up and that was the feeling. And so, in your energy systems, you have that density, and so really just bringing light to that density while you're working through that heaviness. And things like depression, they're a very tangible energy in your body, right? So that's a really easy example.
Very tangible for me.
Because
I
yeah,
100% know it. Heavy, like
yeah,
weighed down, stuck in bed, can't
yep,
move,
yep.
completely hopeless, completely helpless. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really easy energy to kind of put words to because it is so tangible. But being able to bring lightness to that. And I don't know if you remember that specific time.
I remember bringing it up in class, but I don't remember the healing itself.
Right.
But maybe Ellie will. Can you remember one from Ellie? Maybe she'll remember the exact moment. But thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to search through my memory bank. I don't know that I have. I mean, it's a very in the moment process.
Yeah.
And it's not like my brain hangs on to a lot of things.
Right,
Like my brain's
right.
kind of process is, it just flows. And so I don't, a lot of it doesn't necessarily stick into my memory bank.
And you do
Well,
this with so many people as well.
Right.
There's a lot of people that come through come to this program, and you're helping them constantly.
Well,
So.
Danny and I got to experience a group healing, with you there, and just seeing what you were doing and just seeing all of our different roles in that setting. What was that like for you to experience? Like, we are students that you've seen grow up. You've been in every class and you've seen us at our weakest and our strongest and our ups and our downs and our highs and our lows. Oh my God, you've seen it all. And so what is it like for you to witness the growth within all the students?
oh my gosh, there's not even any word to explain. Like my heart's fluttering right now. It's just it's such an honor to watch you guys go through this, and I could get emotional about this. Like your willingness and devotion again to yourself, like discovering that it's in you to heal yourself, and the process of how to do that, and in watching you guys grow it's such an honor. Oh, and it's such a beautiful process, and it gives me so much faith in humanity that,
Yes.
oh my gosh, having you guys on this journey with us is just so amazing. I don't have the words, seriously. Honoring is the best thing,
Mhm.
but
You've been on this road with Rachel for a minute now, almost a decade. And
mhm.
I'm sure you guys have seen nobody get it. And then to see the people start trickling in and to see what's been happening in the movement that's been growing. What has that experience been like? Because that must be crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I mean, oh, go ahead.
and I was going to say, and could you give a little bit of the, as you're talking about that, like the timeline of how, like
Yeah.
when that's unfolded for us?
Yeah. So people don't just start their healing journey with Rachel. That's not typically how it happens, because um, it's very deep. It's very divine work. It's very elevated work that you're doing. And to come in and have no previous experience, I'm sure you could. I'm not, saying that you can't just come and learn from it. But there would be a process of like maybe only understanding at a certain level. Um, but when I first met Rachel, she was teaching a series called Awakening. And so it was very similar, but not quite as structured. And so watching Rachel really get mastery in how to teach what she's already received to other people, that's been a beautiful process to watch her really create this program where in the program anyone could come in, the coaching program, and watch, do the process, meet with your coach, and really make a difference in your life. And so yeah, the way it unfolded was very, it's step by step, like everything else in life. So it was pretty amazing to be where we are today, where we have this program that can affect so many people and affect change, and just it's so beautiful. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can, people who have been awakened to this for that long, I tip my hat to you because woo, we were unconscious then. Okay, we were real unconscious, and now to see like we're all waking up as time goes on, I'm sure is great. Julie, I want to talk a little bit about programs that run for you now that you've do they still come up? Are they still there? Are you still surprised by some of the wounds that still erupt? The fact that you're almost 9 years into this, is that a
yeah.
thing still? I'm really just asking for myself, like, does this
No,
continue for
absolutely.
okay.
And it's a great question. It's totally a great question because um there are still things that come up for me. If you compared me to myself 10 years ago, holy crap, totally different person. I live very peacefully. Rarely am I stuck in my head. I was stuck in my head every minute of every day 10 years ago. So the peace that I live in today is very different, but occasionally I still do. I run resistance programs still. Um, a lot of this is because part of my soul mission is a lot of collective processing, and this can come in just like whoosh. Okay, here's a big like clump of energy that I am now to process, and it's collective. It's not. It's I'm sure that at some point I put some of it out there, but it's coming back to me to be alchemized. And sometimes I'll just be like, no, I don't want to. And so then there runs my resistance programs and sometimes coping programs. So that's kind of what comes up for me mostly. And then sometimes like I'm like, going through the coaching programs with you guys, Rachel always freaking knows when I have something. She always knows when I have had a trigger. And it's so funny because like while I'm working, I'll write my triggers down, where I'll just, and on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe my triggers are now at like a 1.5 or 2. Very rarely do I get triggered higher than that. But I'll write it down and I'll sometimes go through the shadow blueprint with myself, or like, go through the process with myself. And she always knows. She always knows when I have something written on my pad of paper, because she'll be like, Julie, I'm feeling called for you to see if one of the coaches can take you through a process. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, still stuff still comes up. But I'm like, again, still so devoted to my own healing. I don't think I'll ever reach a place where I'm not willing to go in and do the work on myself. So as long as you maintain your willingness, like, yeah, sometimes things still come up, and that's okay. And it's beautiful when it does, because I'm like, hell yeah, that's been in there. Let's get that shit out. I do not want that in my body, and I don't want to run programs on other people. So I'm glad I there's a sense of like gratefulness when things come up for me.
What you said there was a big teaching moment for me, because I'd never heard the concept of collective processing. Could you touch on that a little bit, just so that I can learn?
Yeah. So, it's something that when people are doing healing on themselves and they're to a certain point, that energies from outside of yourself will come in to be processed, because the universe is like, oh shit, look, she knows how to do that. Like, let's get this off the planet. Let's get this energy off the planet. So it will come in to be alchemized. So it's just like alchemizing for yourself, but you're alchemizing for the planet, really, and for the collective.
Wow. And what are you physically experiencing? Because I'm sure you go through upgrades, or I'm sure after healings, or you're being the high and all these things. It's not like you can just go run 30 miles. I'm sure it's so physically exhausting for you. Does it get easier with time? And how do you take care of yourself after all that?
Yeah, lots of water with electrolytes. And yeah, my body goes, everyone's body, when they are going, and think about all the energies that you carry in your body when you're unhealed. All of that is energy just stuck in your body, in your energy field. So it's very heavy. As you start to release that, as you alchemize that, as you process that, your body actually can hold more light. So there's a process of you that your physical body has to go through to become that light, if that makes sense. So yes, and it depends on the, if it's something that I just healed myself, or if it's just an upgrade. Okay, you're here and you need to hold more light, because again, your mission is this for other people. So we're going to get some more light in there. And so every time that happens, there is kind of an adjustment period where my body will be a little bit more fatigued. I'll need to, eat less, eat more, drink more water, stop eating a certain thing. And again, when you come home to yourself and you're really in tap with that divinity, you're just guided to what to do to support your body through those processes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all this. I just want to honor you, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Truly.
Because it's very clear that you really help us in class, even if we can't feel it. When we were in class, I couldn't feel what you were doing. I didn't know what you were doing, but I could tell, like, intuitively, that I knew you were helping. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I wanna jump back into the healing, the group healing that we did, just for a moment. I really, I mean, when we can do this outside of this podcast, I'd love some feedback, because that was the first time I've done anything like this. But is this something, in the way that you were in that healing, is this something that you're going to be training people to do in the future?
I would assume so. There's, I mean, that group healing really was an introduction to how how to do that type of healing for another person, how to do a group healing for another person, how everyone's energies really work together. And so, yeah, that is definitely something that would probably be in the future.
Because it was this beautiful balance of the divine masculine. So we had two men there, and then it was the balance of the divine feminine. Rachel was leading, and then you were also the divine feminine, but then you were also the hybrid. And watching how that all worked was insane. And it also felt super selfless. The energy of just selflessness of we're helping somebody overcome something that's so deep within them, but also we were doing that for the collective as well. Because I'm sure in that Zoom meeting there was only like what, 5 of us, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of us, and I'm sure light was just beaming out in so many ways. My question to you is, what do you see? This is just like me being very curious of like, what, when you close your eyes, like what is actually being shown to you?
So it depends. It depends on what the healing is. It depends on where divinity is guiding me. It's really just it's like the sixth sense, right? Like I just have like a knowing of where energies are, where they should be. And it's all just an intuitive process of, and in my mind's eye, there are colors and things like that, but it's really hard to explain in words. Words
sure
are
is,
very
yeah.
limiting when it comes to explaining energetics and healing.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But whatever you're doing, it's working. That's what I'll say about that. Julie, I'd love to know what you would say to anybody out there who really would like to do this work, but there's a lot of fear in programs and they're stuck in their mind. I've seen that a lot in doing consultations of how much, including me, people are so stuck in their minds. And since you were so mind heavy in the beginning of all of this, what do you say to the people out there who are stuck there?
Taking the first step is the hardest part. After you take that first step and you realize the kind of life-changing work that you could be doing, it's not as scary. But I totally know what you're saying. That very first step towards yourself is scary. It's very scary. And I remember it being scary because I remember there was a lot of things that I didn't want to know about myself. I didn't want to open that door because I knew our first 7 years of life really solidify our programs and kind of our safety mechanisms that we build for ourselves so that we can feel safe. And I was like, if I open that door, I'm going to see everything. And I already had known that there was a lot of dysfunction in there. So once you open that door, though, it's only the opening the door that's like the scariest part. As soon as you open it, it's like, oh my gosh, there's change. It's a freeing process. So take the dive, open the door, get a coach at MSU. Because it's so worth stepping through the door, getting over your fear. And it's not getting over, that's not the right word. Moving through processing your fear so that you can come home to yourself and you can really allow yourself to be that divine being that you are, and find what your divine purpose is on this planet. Because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here.
Yeah. And what's it been like, Julie, to really come home to yourself and what you're here to do?
Magical. Magical. Freeing, peaceful, knowing that I'm right in the perfect place. This is where divinity wants me to be. This is my life's purpose. It's freeing.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Julie. Danny, did you want to say something? You went off mute.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, for me, it was going, before I worked with Rachel, was taking the courage to go do ayahuasca in Peru. And that for me was okay, I'm going to take this leap of faith. I know that it potentially could open my psyche to a place that I might have to deal with my own death, because that's what, you know, I would hear of. And so for me, it was getting to a place over years of running very slowly through my depression to a place where I was like, okay, I feel like I've got enough strength and courage to go do this. And then the irony was I went and did it, definitely had some healing for sure. But I finished it and I was like, yeah, I'm still need a lot of healing. It's not it. And so then the next step to join Masters of Self was super easy for me. It was just the financial side that was weighing me down. And for me, building that power, that strength to get to a place where I could say yes, getting over that resistance of like being trapped in the powerless, weak, small self, that was hard. And it took a long time. It took years for me. It wasn't like I went into my depression 2018, 2019 and was immediately like, okay, it's time to heal. It was a long process over years of trying different things and figuring out. The meditation kind of helped, but didn't really heal. The breath work kind of helped, but didn't really heal. Cold showers, the nature, all of it. It all helps, but it doesn't really heal. And the work we do here is actual healing.
Right.
And that's what really sets us apart.
Absolutely. Because those things are beautiful. Doing breath work, getting what you can from those tools so that you can be in a place to be open to healing. And that's a lot of people's processes, including myself. I went, I spent, 10 years on my healing journey before I met Rachel. And all of that was things like I went to massage therapy school, where I got an introduction to, programs, mental programs, emotional programs, how we hold things in our bodies. And then I went to yoga and did a yoga teacher training. And then, I I saw all these different spiritual teachers that brought me to a place where I was open enough to go in and do that real work. And you don't have to start there. It doesn't have to be this big, long process. If you're willing to just jump in and open that door, then start at Masters of Self University for sure. Because that's the quickest way. Danny, how have you noticed since you started doing the real work that your healing is just like exponentially getting, like you're able to grasp it more and more?
Oh, 100%. I move through everything so much more quickly and with ease. Or maybe not ease is the right word, because it's always difficult when you're then triggered and you have to work through your pain. But instead of it, I mean, the beginning of this process, it was like I was fumbling in the dark, trying to figure out I didn't know what I was doing. And now I know exactly what I need to do. I need to go off on my own and love myself. And it's that simple. It's literally that simple. And to bring my light to whatever is showing up to me right now, whatever is causing me to run this program, to be in this wound, I just have to learn to love it. And that's a process. And it takes time, but the time that it takes it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And the way that I'm able to go further and deeper into myself, it's cool to think where I'm going to be in a few years. It's really cool to think that like a few years down the road, I'm going to be able to just, I always picture a dark cave, and just the wound and the psyche is like a forever big cave that we are going down into. And the further we go in, the deeper it gets and the darker it gets and the crazier it gets. but we go in and we bring our light, and attached to the, you know, the outside of the cave, there's a tether that we go in, and we always know that we're connected to our divinity, but we're able to go in deeper and deeper and deeper. And the deeper we go in, we're illuminating more and seeing more, and our understanding of ourself is becoming greater. And the more that we understand ourselves, the more that we understand others. And then that allows us to bring the compassion and the empathy to everyone when they're going through pain. A friend actually asked me the other day about, like, oh, now you've started healing, do you find yourself judging people because they're not? I was like, the complete opposite. I'm actually able to bring more compassion, because the more that I heal, the more that I see people just like I was. And I'm like, damn, they're in pain, they're suffering. I know what that's like, and I feel for them. It's not a place of superiority. It's a place of compassion and love. And that's where we get to. And that's what I found. And so I just can't wait to see 5 years, 10 years, how much love and compassion I'm going to be able to bring to the world and to people that are suffering.
I love that.
So beautifully said. Yeah, I think, you know, we all have our own individual journeys, and really learning to bring love to every centimeter of the darkness is, you know, I think I have to remind myself too. I've only been in this for like 8 months, and it's like just to be easy on myself, to find love and compassion for myself through that. And I think something that Danny always teaches me is just having compassion for others, because we are them and we know exactly where they've been. And that's why this work is as profound as it is, because it comes back to love, because that's all there is. That's all there is.
So true.
Julie, is there anything else you'd like to say to the good people out there who are listening to this podcast?
Yes.
Jump. Yes.
Jump.
Jump.
Yeah.
Jump. Yes. Jump. Yeah.
Jump. Take the
Yeah.
leap.
Yeah.
Take the leap.
Yeah. And you guys will get to meet Julie in a plethora of classes when you join. Thank you so much for everybody at home that's listening. Thank you, Julie, for doing what you do and being here with us throughout the whole journey. It's been beautiful to be with you through this. And thank you, Danny, for all your shares. Subscribe, rate, review.
Till next time.
Till next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Love you guys.